All right, folks, welcome in. This is the Sunday night recap episode for Week 8 in the National Football League here on the Action Network podcast. Wherever you're listening, wherever you get your podcasts, and those of you watching live on the Action Network YouTube channel, please subscribe to our channel. Please like the video, comment, hang out with us. We appreciate you being here. My name is Brendan Glasheen. I am joined by Brandon Anderson, one of our NFL contributors, NFL bettors at Action Network. Evan Abrams is our director of research and media. He joins as well. We've been with you all season long, and this is the crew all year. So if you've been with us, thank you. If not, welcome. A lot to get to. We got to be super quick with some of these snoozers that are later on in the show. But as we normally do, we'll start with some of the games, the marquee games of the day. And like we always do, Brandon, we'll start right away with Sunday night. I'll turn to Evan first, though, on Sunday night. Dallas and San Francisco. The Niners bounce back after Brock Purdy looked awful. 3 interceptions against the Chiefs. He leads the Niners to victory, 30-24. San Francisco covers the 6. Pushed the 6, got the 5.5, right? Got the 6 right before kickoff. Total goes over 47.5. Your thoughts?
Yeah, close about that area. It was, obviously with that last possession for Dak, one way or the other, the cover was in question. Everything was kind of in the balance there. The game had already gone over the total. Haven't looked it up, but I know primetime overs have been a big thing this year. So you get another over tonight. And I believe this was a very rare over on Sunday Night Football, as that was kind of the one outlier this year. So that was one thing. Looking inside the game, honestly, the box score, if I feel like it was like a 3-quarter game and then a final quarter game, because like those last quarter really made the game look more even, especially in some of the DAC categories and the yardage stuff. But even I'm looking right now, yards per play, 7.3 for the 49ers, 4.9 for Dallas. That feels like most of the game. Honestly, this entire season, Dak and the Dallas offense has looked completely different. 22nd success rate, 23rd EPA per pass, and they were 4th the previous 3 seasons. CeeDee Lamb had an incredible night, but it was his first 100-yard game of the season. He had 8 last year. So I just think the game is more about the ineptitude from Dallas, even with the good, let's call it good last half of the fourth quarter. In terms of Dak, a few stats. 2-10 ATS as an underdog last 12 starts. He's 4-12 ATS as a dog since the beginning of 2020. Only quarterbacks worse: Bryce Young, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. Feels like it's a bad list when it's Dak, Bryce, Fields, and Mac. So not great. And then you look at Dallas coming up: Atlanta, Philly, Houston, Washington. Not easy. So not a great loss on the Dallas side. And then quickly on San Francisco, I'll just say this. Almost rushed for 200 yards. I believe almost 200. Oh, no, got way over at the end there. 223 on the ground. 2 touchdowns. Dallas has allowed 12 rushing touchdowns this year, second most in the NFL, ahead of only Carolina. Whenever you're on a list with Carolina, never good. And they're last in EPA per play on rush, last success rate, just awful. One interesting thing, which I will note, you can even use this like a big stat this week, but with a bye coming up, which is what San Francisco now rolls into, teams are 60% straight up, 58% against the spread since 2019. So teams tend to play well looking forward as well.
I feel like you could DVR a game of Dallas on Sunday night and just the cutaways to McCarthy and to Dak, and it's the same.
I would have exactly agreed with you if they had not beaten Pittsburgh, which they should.
That's fair. Yeah, they did beat Pittsburgh a few Sunday nights.
The narrative would have been much better tonight had they have not come alive in the end of there.
Well, at least when it's McCarthy or Prescott against a worthy counterpart offensively. So Brandon Anderson.
That Pittsburgh one's a little different too. Like they really outplayed Pittsburgh all of that game, as they're the better team than Pittsburgh and should have been well ahead, but they Dallas, so they needed the little comeback at the end, but they really should have won comfortably. This to me was less Dallas Pittsburgh, more Dallas Baltimore, where it was like, I think 28-3 or 28-6, and then we got a cute little comeback for the Cowboys that made it look real close near the end. Was like, I mean, I guess you technically had a chance here. They certainly had a chance tonight, I think, more than against Baltimore. But I don't know, even like the CeeDee Lamb breakout felt a little bit more like, you're just not going to cover CeeDee Lamb for these 2 drives, huh? Well, that's a choice that you could make, San Fran. and then they started covering again. I was like, oh, okay, just went like 4-and-out, and that's that. So
Right.
yeah, felt like
17
a lot of
targets for
Dallas
Lamb,
games
too.
we've seen.
Okay. Too much Dallas. Way too much Dallas. Brandon Anderson later on will have the hot read coming up. We'll have picks for Monday Night Football between the Giants and the Steelers. Baltimore, Cleveland. This is the chance. This is really Brandon's opportunity to shake his tail about Lamar Jackson losing now to the Raiders and to the Browns. Jameis Winston quoted Eminem and led the Browns to victory. 29-24. Cleveland covered as an 8.5-point dog. Total goes over 44.5. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, this was a fun one. Fun one if you like to doubt Lamar Jackson. A fun one if you're on the Browns. A lot of sharps this week were on the Browns. Not a lot of places took the Browns as a plus 350 money line like we did. I feel like we nailed this cap with Jameis Winston, with Ken Dorsey, with the offense just looking totally different. It looked like the Joe Flacco offense that we saw near the end of last season, which felt like YOLO ball, just putting it up there for receiving guys. The receivers on this team, like Deshaun Watson, should be sued for malpractice after this, because we got Browns receiving games 7 for 99 yards. Cedric Tillman looks like the go-to guy now. 2 touchdowns, 8 for 85, 5 for 79, 5 for 61, all in one game. Pick one of those lines and it would have been like a nice game to have under Deshaun Watson. That's just, hey, look, we traded away Amari Cooper and we still just have dudes that can catch the ball when an actual quarterback is running the offense. Jameis has 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. He now has more 300-yard games as a Cleveland Brown than Deshaun Watson. That's 1-0 for his career. So thanks for coming out, Deshaun.
Wow.
Yeah, just the offense looked totally different. And this is the first time all season the Browns have scored 20 points. So we got there. The crowd went crazy when we got there. This is now, in this rivalry, 6 of the last 8 that have finished within 6 points in either direction. So these games just tend to stay close. Keep that in mind for when they play in the future. Again, Baltimore just got away from Derrick Henry. Only 11 carries in this game. And they continue to do that in some of these games. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I don't know, is that a team identity thing? Or is it that that's the thing that the defense are trying to avoid, and saying, go ahead, Lamar Jackson, see if you can beat us doing the passing thing. We don't want Derrick Henry running all over us. I don't know schematically, but on third down, that's where this game was won. The Browns were 8 of 15 on third downs. The Ravens were 2 of 10. They could not convert, could not stay on the field and keep things going. Now, to be fair, Baltimore missed a field goal. Justin Tucker, another 50-yard miss. Kyle Hamilton dropped the easiest interception he'll ever have in his career on the final drive. They would have won the game. And if I'm being totally honest, the Lamar guy, I know, 2 plays to end the game. Lamar scrambles around for like 4 hours, and I'm just waiting for the ball to fall into the arms of someone, and the Ravens get the comeback, and there's the MVP doing the thing again. Didn't happen. Sometimes when you leave these games up for grabs, the other team puts them away. We are now at, for the season, I did tweet this out, plus 250 or longer money line underdogs are 9-11 straight up on the season. That is a wild stat. Bet the money line on those teams, like in this game, 78% ROI on your money line investment on the season. We now have, in Bet Labs, this closed at plus 285. We bet it at plus 350. There are only 5 losses this season at plus 285 or longer, or 5 wins by underdogs. The Ravens are responsible for 2 of those. And they led in the fourth quarter of both of them. This is a thing for the Ravens. This is a thing that they do. They lose these games that they shouldn't be losing. They lose these games that they're leading late. I know this is a little different. They came back and took the lead, then gave back up the lead. The defense was not up to par here. Nobody was up to par. You can't be losing near double-digit favorites as they were earlier in the week when we talked about this one. They're out 5-3 now. Like, this is a team that we talk about as the class of the AFC, but they're 3 games behind the class of the AFC and the team that they're going to always be compared to until they actually beat them. I don't know. The Browns look good. The Ravens gave this one away.
Yeah, you mentioned the Browns win total in best bets on Thursday into Friday morning. We did the Friday morning release. Looking at the Browns win total over 3.5 live. That's big for you there too. Okay, Chicago, Washington. Speaking of a quarterback running around for 4 hours and then making a heave and finding Noah Brown after a tip ball. Whole lot to unpack there in that final minute. Tyreek Stevenson did end up going to Twitter and apologizing to all of Chicago. He said, to Chicago and teammates, my apologies for my lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over until zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen. He's talking smack. That angle from the fan is just fantastic. They actually gave him some credit on the Sunday night broadcast when they were talking about it at halftime. But the Hail Mary for Jaden Daniels against Caleb Williams, the number 2 pick beats the number 1 pick. 18-15, Washington -1.5. If you, our friends Chad and Simon, the favorites pod was live, and Chad was already declaring victory. Simon was stone cold silent, and Chad put his hands in his face. Worth your time if you want to go look at the clip. I'm pretty sure it's out there somewhere. But yeah, Evan, what do we got here on this game? What do we pick apart here?
I'll try to do this as quickly as possible since there really is so much to talk about. But I will say this. I was on that favorites call as we're doing that podcast live. And unfortunately, Chad's feed is actually more delayed than everyone else's on the call. So I'm at least sitting there on mute, knowing what happens, listening to him talk about Jaden Daniels in the backfield. So we all felt very bad and it came across on the call. But moving forward, I think it's worth talking about this game just from one perspective and then the Hail Mary at the end, because Caleb Williams didn't deserve to win the game. He literally had a absolutely terrible game. And that's really taking away the fact he had 2 game-winning drives, basically, to win this one and didn't. But minus 10.6 EPA, he was 10 of 24 for 131 passing yards with a little rush. But then you look on the other side. Jaden Daniels was a plus 9 EPA, 21 of 38, 326, a touchdown. Also some rush, 8 of 52 on the ground. They both had the exact same ADOT almost, and that's after Jaden Daniels threw the ball 70 yards downfield to win the game. I just, one thing overall, like we see week to week just a difference of the quarterbacks. This is Caleb's 3rd game in 7 starts with a passer rating of 60 or below. Only him and Zach Wilson, top 10 picks, have done that since 2017. It's not a great list. He's gone back and forth, but I just think it's super clear that Jaden Daniels looks better week to week, more composed. Now, the other layer of this is just Eberflus made some mistakes, I would say. I mean, the formations on the Hail Mary, the allowing the chunk yards before the Hail Mary, like, giving it to the offensive lineman and trying to make him look like the fridge, all sorts of different things could have gone one way or the other here. So that's one thing. Looking forward for Chicago just a tiny bit, hardest remaining strength of schedule of any team. 63%, their opponents. All 6 division games remain for Chicago. Plus, they're at Arizona next week, which, coming off this game, not the easiest. Then you also still have Seattle and at San Francisco. Crazy nonetheless. And I will say this, I'll talk about a stat moving forward a little bit. So I looked this up. Last second touchdown with no time left, down 6 points or less. The last time we saw that was Derek Carr to Michael Crabtree for the Raiders in 2017. It's only the 6th time we've seen that type of touchdown since 2000. Those previous teams went 1-4 the next week. So I do think from Washington's point of view, possibly a little emotional, maybe an interesting Giants play, even though no one I know wants to bet the Giants. But that's probably the analysis here. The other thing is, please just Google it, but you've got the Washington rule as well in this one with a little of an election spin to it. You can Brandon can talk about that a little bit, but a lot of circumstances dealt with on this Hail Mary. Tyreek Stevenson, the taunt to the tip is what I probably would call this, but just a terrible set of circumstances. Sorry for him.
Yeah, the Washington rule, just to put out there, you go ahead and process this however you like to. Since Washington moved, since the now Commanders moved to Washington before the 1940 election, in 19 of 21 American elections since then, the result of the last Washington home game, that's this one, before the election, determined the outcome of the election, quote unquote, of course. When and the incumbent stays, lose, and the opposition wins. So maybe you've got your name for it. My name for it is the Kamala Hail Mary. Maybe that's what we came about today.
What about the Harris Hail Mary, since you've got the owner and the last name of the
that's not bad. I don't mind that. So, you can look it up. You can look on Wikipedia. Like the 1940 to 2000, it held every year, and then the results have been pretty fuzzy since then. And it's obviously correlation, causation. Like it's all very goofy and fun. But we've got an article up talking about it. Chicago, by the way, all those teams you listed off, every single one of them that they face the rest of the season is 500 or better. It's October. You've got a lot of games left against every team 500 or better, which the Bears are too. It's a tough schedule coming up. Washington's schedule not a real peach either. So this was fun. I gotta think. I thought Jane Daniels was pretty clearly ahead rookie of the year anyways. I thought this was a chance for Caleb to maybe flip the narrative in his favor. I gotta feel like it's gonna really take something. Like this may have been the nail in the coffin there.
Taunt, tip, Trump. Those all work too. Moving on. Indy, and I had the Bears too, so I'm ready to move on. Like Chad. Indy and Houston. The Colts were a play for a lot of folks at action. They got their +5. Texans did win the game outright, 23-20. Just another slog here, really, for the Texans, but they come out victorious. The total goes under 45, Brandon.
Yeah, the Texans continue to win and continue to not cover. That is the thing that they've done this season. Look, they're now 6-2. I can think they're fraudulent all I want, but they are up 2 games on the Colts in the division. That's really 3 games because they've swept them already. And it's not like Tennessee or Jacksonville is coming. So it doesn't really matter what's happening if you actually get the win at the end of the day. Stephon Diggs left with a non-contact injury, fear of an ACL tear. Yeah. Not great for Houston. That was the big move everyone loved offensively. Nico Collins is already hurt, so we're getting short on receivers. But, I mean, to me, this story just has to be Anthony Richardson. He just, man, I'm low on words for how bad he was. First half, he throws a 69-yard touchdown to Josh Downs. That's good. Here's the stat line for the rest of Richardson at halftime. 1 of 14 passing for 12 yards, including on 3rd down on his own 12 with 23 seconds till halftime, throws an insanely horrible interception that set the Texans up for touchdown the very next play, which again, they won by 3. You can't just give the team 7 points there. That's on coaching too. Like, why are you even passing with your young quarterback that can't pass the ball normal? He finishes, Richardson, 10 of 32 passing on the day. Just an insane number. That's like 30% completion percentage, 106 yards outside of that one long throw. He got benched briefly in the 3rd quarter for Joe Flacco. They asked him about it after the game, and he said he was tired from running so much. What? He gets a Hail Mary on the final play. We just talked about the Hail Mary. He got a Hail Mary chance. Didn't even get a pass off. Can't even throw the ball on a Hail Mary. Like, we talked about the guys scrambling around for 4 hours. He scrambled for like 3 seconds, and it was like, all right, I'm sacked, game over. Finishes with a just under 16 average depth of target yards. That is the 99th percentile, with a minus 25 completion percentage over expectation, which is the 1st percentile. This is just like, I don't know how to play quarterback, so I'm just going to run backwards and yell 500 and just chuck it down the field every time and hope to God someone on my team can catch it. The Colts are 2-3 in Richardson games now. In the 2 wins, he has no touchdowns, running or passing, 2 interceptions. 2 of the losses are to the Texans by 2 and 3 points. You're the Colts, other than the quarterbacks. You got to be like revolting in the locker room. Joe Flacco is right there. You're telling me you can't win by 2 or 3 points these games that are right there? You could be leading the division. I don't know what you do about this. Anthony Richardson, the book is not written. He's only, like a rookie basically still, but he is a very, very bad rookie at this point. And I don't know what you do about it if you're the Colts.
Win totals in the balance. I mean, the Texans, 9.5 was their preseason win total. Their next 3 at Jets, which is Thursday night, more prime time Jets, and then Lions home, and then at Dallas. That's what they have coming up.
Completing 44.4% of passes this season.
The
Also, for
surprising
like
part about
only
that is that seems a little high to me.
for the only people that have even thrown a pass, it's only Drew Lock lower at the moment.
Okay. All right. Texans are 6-2. Colts are 4-4. Folks, if you want access to all of Action's pro projections, make sure to sign up for our annual subscription that is currently on sale. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Kerner and other members of the Action Analytics team. You'll also get access to exclusive expert articles, our best spread, money line, and total bets, and real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, all you have to do is go to actionnetwork.com/pro today and use the code LIVE20 at sign up. One more time, that's LIVE20 at sign up for $20 off. We're recapping all of these games. There's a busy slate in week 8 on this Sunday. Hot reads coming, Monday Night Football picks coming as well. If you're enjoying the podcast, if you're watching live on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and also like our video if you don't mind. We'd appreciate that. Arizona, Miami, Tua's return, but the Cardinals spoil it. Brandon, 28-27. The hot read, speaking of which, you ended up getting there with the Cardinals. Didn't feel all that promising. Cardinals was your give. You gave it out at 3.5. Ends up closing around 5.5. Maybe it closed at 3. I don't remember I don't know what the number closed at.
Yeah, I don't remember where it closed. I think it did. It certainly moved toward Miami. The hope was that perhaps Tua would miss this one. We didn't get that. It closed at 5. But we got the cover anyways. And honestly, that was part of the cap, is that I knew I was going to probably still like the Arizona side, even if it was Tua. And part of what we saw, he was good, but not great. This is not the Miami offense that we saw last year. This is a timing thing. And especially on early downs, they're fine. Compared to what they've been the rest of the year, they were miles better. They still weren't Miami, though. Last year's Miami against this Arizona defense could have put up like 50 points. That's just not what they did today. In fact, they were 11 of 15. The Dolphins were on third down. That's really good just to get to the 27. That kind of shows you on the early downs, the more reliable downs, how mid they effectively were. So Cardinals now lead the division 4-4. They might be, along with Washington, you know, we talked about this before. This is the opposite of a victory lap. I wanted Cardinals Island. We talked about it back in like March and April. I wanted to get there and I couldn't do it. And here they are, maybe the worst first team this year, along with Washington. One prop note for you. With Tua back, Devin Achane has been so much better with Tua. He almost had 100 yards rushing again, but more importantly, 6 catches, 50 yards. His other games with Tua this year, 7 for 79, 7 for 76. As a receiver, that's been a big new weapon for them. In the games without Tua, 12 catches, 49 yards combined. So keep that in mind for props, receptions, and receiving yards over. Dolphins offense, I think they're fine. I think this is like shake off the rust and get back going. The problem is they're fine, but 2-5. They play at Buffalo next week. That's for the season. If you get that one, which they've not been getting against Buffalo lately, that's the game that Tua got hurt in last time. If you win it, Rams, Raiders, Patriots, all right. Those are winnable. Those are winnable defenses for that offense to start hitting its steam. You can get back to 6-5, but you got to win at Buffalo. You can't go to 2-6. 2-5 might already be a little too far. I don't know. Miami is teetering on the brink for me. They've got a rough schedule coming up after that stretch. Cardinals are 4-4, and in that division, I believe Seattle and San Fran are also 4-4. LA is certainly looking better now than it did a week ago as well. That looks like the division to watch, but Arizona the surprise leader at the midpoint.
Weather in Buffalo next Sunday, it's way too early, but it looks like it's going to be not too cold. I mean, hey, for Tua and the Dolphins' sake, they're not playing this game in December, which hasn't boded well with the cold weather, with the Tua cold weather numbers, but low of 40, high of 55, looks like clouds next Sunday, which could be helpful. But yeah, shake off the rust kind of game, I think, for the Dolphins. But yeah, a game they certainly should have had. But the Cardinals get there. Buffalo at Seattle, that was one of the prime 4:30 window games. That was the Fox primetime game. And Buffalo, this was just right when the ball got snapped over Geno's head. I'm like, oh boy. It all kind of went to hell for the Seahawks. Bills 31, Seahawks 10, Buffalo -3 gets there. No problem. Evan, total goes under 45.5.
Yeah, it probably could have been a completely different game if they execute early, maybe just a different scheme going forward, because after that, it just felt like everything went downhill. But the entire game felt like it kind of pinned on the run game. Buffalo 34, 164, 2 touchdowns. Seattle, I had to read this a few times. They had 17 carries for 32 yards. So literally could not move the ball. I saw some Charbonnet, some Walker, just no matter what they did, didn't work at all. Seattle's first 7 possessions, punt, field goal, turnover on downs, half, interception, punt. It just, at that point, you just can't stay in the game. Even when Josh Allen gives you his first interception of the year. I will note just an interesting Geno number here. So he's 3-9 against the spread at home since the start of last season, worst in the NFL. Only worse is Sam Howell, 0-7-1, who is his backup. So that's not very good either. And you look at that, Geno at home this year, 4 touchdowns, 6 picks. On the road, he's got 4 touchdowns and 1 interception, and his road passer rating is 16 points higher. So It's just seems like he's a different guy when they had the road, and they just have done better. So that's, to me, probably the Seattle side of the ball. They're at home next week, and they stay there against a Rams team who is on extended rest off of Thursday. So interesting matchup, and definitely want to get around there, and look different at home, but we will see it. And from Buffalo's point of view, like I don't think I learned much except for the fact, like, Josh Allen continues to blow out opponents in the majority of his games. 53 of 74 wins by 7 points or more. So that helps with those bigger spreads in a sense. We talked about the interception, but I will say this in terms of the schedule. So Buffalo is, you talked about that Miami game, then they're at Indy, and then they play Kansas City before the bye. Kansas City won today. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Probably not as much to talk about, but at Vegas, and they play Tampa at home, then at home against Denver. So you could be setting up maybe a 9-0 versus 7-2 game in week 11, which is really fun.
Mari Cooper, 1 catch here was excellent. And for Seattle, Brandon, I mean, because you're high on Seattle this year, you just kind of burn the tape, and your next 3 are against the division. And then you hope, I don't know if they're going to get Metcalf back next week or not with that MCL thing, but maybe they wait for the bye and then they get him for the San Francisco game after they play. They get the Rams, as Evan mentioned, but then they get the Niners on November 17th after a bye. So maybe that's the spot for Metcalf, or they try to play him sooner rather than later because it's a division game.
I'd probably like Seattle next week, to be honest with you. It's only a -1 right now. Obviously, you have to wait on Metcalf, but I think it's just a decent spot after a Rams looked probably as good as you can do beating a hard Minnesota team.
Right. Metcalf or no Metcalf, though, the run numbers, the run stats are not. You got to still be able to run the ball. And that Rams D, I think, just keeps getting better. That front with all those young picks. All right, let's go to the next one. Atlanta, Tampa, Falcons win 31-26. It was a good start for the Bucs without Godwin, without Evans. But then Atlanta settles in. They cover the short number, 1.5. Total goes over 47.5, Brandon.
Yeah, the Bucs honestly hung pretty well, given that they don't have any receivers left. Statistically, pretty even outside of 3 turnovers to none. And that's kind of what did the difference here. That's the Baker Mayfield effect, unfortunately. He's going to give you the big plays, but it's going to come with some turnovers. My takeaway is that Kirk Cousins would be the MVP if he just played the Bucs every week. 4 touchdowns, 276 yards. We just saw earlier this month, 4 touchdowns, 509 yards in that Thursday night game. Kirk against the Bucs, pace for the season, 6,673 yards and 68 passing touchdowns. Yeah, so Kirk Cousins against the Bucs is your MVP. Kyle Pitts had his Leon Lett touchdown moment. If you remember that from the 90s, he had the ball kind of just dragging out behind him, stripped at the goal line. They called it a touchdown on the field. I think it probably stood because of that. I don't think it was a touchdown. It depends on the angle that you're looking at. It's a touchdown in history now. So Atlanta 5-3, 1 game up on the Bucs, but really 2 games they've swept them now. Tampa's out of receivers. The Saints and Panthers play next week, so I guess somebody has to win, but those teams are deader than dead. I think I wanted to fade the Texans and the Falcons this year. I've been looking to fade them in the division coming into the year and all throughout. I still don't really believe in either team, but by default at this point, they've gotten the job done despite the circumstances, and they are now both pretty clearly in the lead. I think that's the one division in the NFC that's just about wrapped at this point.
Chiefs, Raiders. So we talked about Lamar, and then Jared. We'll get to Jared Goff in the Lions soon, but Jared Goff had 3 touchdowns. We only threw 85 yards. I'm like, all right, here you go. Patrick Mahomes, Raiders. We talked about MVP on Tuesday. We did roundtable, And we mentioned it, I think, on last Sunday too about MVP, and there's an opportunity there, Evan, and it just they win. The Chiefs win again. They're 27-20. It was sloppy. Mahomes threw another pick, couple touchdowns. Raiders do cover the 9 points. They get there +9. Total goes over. I just rinse and repeat with what we're talking about with the Chiefs, it seems.
Stats don't look good enough to like change the season numbers, but from a game to game perspective, he played well. +12 EPA. His ADOT was about 1.5 to 2 points higher than it has been on the season. About a +6 completion percentage over expected. And even if you look downfield, he was 9 of 14, 10+ yards. And his 2 touchdowns were just below that 10-yard mark with a little more yak on it. But it's just, KC's thing, they were 12 of 16 on third down. You just can't beat a team, even with Mahomes throwing another interception, is 23rd in the last 2 seasons. It just doesn't matter when they just convert and their defense shows up every time. I think they had 5 sacks. Just really difficult to beat them. Part of their success has been the defense just overall, allowing 27 points now in 28 consecutive games. Longest for any streak since the 2005 Ravens, who did it in 29 straight. And then, honestly, it just feels like Mahomes keeps doing this. So him and Reed, 6th win at Allegiant, most of any combo. Nobody else has even 5 wins. So, when you talk about ownership of the division, 19-1 straight up on the road for Mahomes. And here's my favorite one. So Reed, 29-6 straight up road neutral versus the AFC West, 2013 to now. 29-6 on the road versus his own division. Mahomes are not. Just some crazy stats. And I think people, in terms of gambling on the Raiders, felt good about the end there. So Mahomes, favorite of 3.5 or more, 24, 35, and 2 ATS since 2020. That's the least profitable quarterback in the NFL in that spot. So wins the games, always figures it out. Chiefs defense comes through, doesn't cover the number. Honestly, feels like I put that in a blender every time we talk about them.
Xavier Worthy had, I know it wasn't like the pizzazz with like an end around or something, but he had 8 targets. Like they really integrated him. I felt he was actually running some real routes in their offense. It wasn't just gadget stuff too.
And he was looking at
and Travis Kelce scored.
Yeah, and Kelce scored. If you want to search right now, just search National Tight Ends Day on Twitter. The parlays out there are crazy. We just posted on Action Network. It was $10 to win 185 grand. So people had a day.
I was proud for like the first 35 minutes of this that we didn't even mention that, but you just did.
I did.
National Tight Ends Day. Who cares? I mean, tight ends were actually really good today.
It's like the hallmarkest holiday that football dudes ever made up before.
Yeah. And whatever. It's
a lot of people made some money today, so you can't.
Hey, they included George Kittle, who did score in the game tonight. They did include Kittle in the receiver doc on Netflix, so they don't forget about these guys.
That's fair.
Okay? By the way,
we're all on team win money from the book. So if National Tight Ends Day is winning us all money, we can celebrate.
By the way, Josh Allen is now your new MVP favorite as of right now, +320. Lamar Jackson second at +350. Mahomes at +450. Jared Goff's number didn't move, +700, and Jaden Daniels at +900 is
he
your
had his MVP moment today. Maybe.
Yeah. Hard to ignore that, for sure. Okay, one more before we do our rapid fire ugly round. Brandon, Green Bay, Jacksonville. The super escalator did not get there, but Dobbs was the guy receiving wise. That definitely happened. Green Bay does win. They come from behind. It was a really off-putting game. Doug Peterson post-game really didn't want to give Trevor Lawrence any love whatsoever. He credited the receivers, credited the blocking, but really didn't want to touch Trevor Lawrence and his impact in that game. Green Bay 30, Jacksonville 27. Jags do cover 3.5, and the total goes over 49.
Yeah, it was a weird one. Dobbs went over the 45 yards we went. That was the basis of our escalator. I think he was over that like halfway through the first quarter. So we're feeling good. Like 2 big plays downfield, another one soon after that, then just nothing. And Jordan Love leaves hurt with a groin injury. We'll see what happens. But apparently for the Packers, it means they win. Malik Willis is basically now 3-0. Like, I know he doesn't get credit for the win here, but Malik Willis should get credit for the win. He led them from behind late in the game. He led them ahead and they went behind, but you get both parts there. Matt LaFleur, coach of the year, 6-2, 3 wins now with Malik Willis. Like, that's saving Green Bay's season. Up next for the Packers, the Lions. So that's a big one. They don't sound super concerned about Love right now. The books disagree, and I've already moved the line off of a lot what it was. So I think at least kind of hedging on whether Love will play or not. So obviously that's the big story for that one. Green Bay led by 10 with 6 minutes left. Jacksonville got back into it. Green Bay ended up getting the win anyways. I think the Packers deserve to win here. So they were 2 of 6 in the red zone. Otherwise, I think they probably just can win more comfortably. Shouts to Logan Cook, who you've never heard of before. Punter for the Jaguars. Has his feet inside his own 10. Punt of the season. He punts it out of bounds to the 1 yard line across the field on the other side from inside his own 10. We got to mention something like that on a show like this. Punter analytics out here. Teams returning from London without a bye week have now tied or trailed in the fourth quarter 15 of 17 games. We're done with London for the year, but keep that in mind for next year. That stat still holds up.
Yeah, 2 straight weeks in London. They hung in there though, Jacksonville, but they cover. So if you bet the Jaguars to cover, there you go. And we'll keep an eye on the Green Bay. Yeah, the Jordan Love thing is alarming. And he threw another pick, right? He threw a pick in the first half.
Yeah, bad one. Another bad one.
That line's +4 next week for Green Bay right now against Detroit.
Okay, I mean it. Super quick on these. Philly, Cincinnati. Even though I think Philly, Cincinnati was actually a game that was actually not as bad as we thought it was going to be. It does go over 47.5. Philly wins 37-17. They were a short dog, Brandon.
Yeah, still no first quarter points for the Eagles. The under was my play here. Feeling great till about 5 minutes till halftime. Lane Johnson gets hurt. Turned out he was fine. Turned out we got like a tush push right before halftime that I felt like was the entire Eagles regime. If the Bengals had stopped them, they're on their second try. The Bengals had stopped them again there. I think like that's it for Philly. They didn't stop them. They get the touchdown. They come in after that. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal. The Eagles offense is fixed, apparently. The Bengals defense let them fix it. After all that, the Eagles are 5-2. We kind of feel like we've written them off mostly, and they're just suddenly offense maybe clicking, looking pretty good. After all that, the Bengals are 3-5. Trouble in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that tush push would have been nice if they did that against Cleveland in the first half a few weeks ago, right? New Orleans and the Chargers, this felt like a Big Ten Michigan game. This was like Michigan, Iowa or something. 26-8 Chargers. They cover 7.5, Evan, and the total's under 41.
As quick as I can go here, the Chargers play the same game every single week. They are 6-1 to the under by 8.2 points per game. 18-6 to the under since the start of last year. And I even looked it up with Harbaugh. Harbaugh's last 3 seasons in the NFL, he's 27-14-1 to the under with the Chargers and Niners. You look at Herbert, 16-4 to the under since the start of last year. He's 16-2 to the under in his last 18 starts. It's just a run game right now for the Chargers. 4.02 yards per attempt. The exact same number in the first half and the second half. When they are leading by 1 possession, they are averaging 5.02 yards per attempt. They're just running the ball down people's throats. It just doesn't matter, and it's keeping the game under the total. The only thing that matters for the Saints, 0-3 straight up and against the spread with a backup, being outscored 110-45. Derek Carr is supposed to maybe play next week, and they're in Carolina laying 7. So with that line, he better be playing because I don't know how they could be laying 7, but I guess it's Carolina. Moving on.
Detroit throttles Tennessee 52-14. This one was over very soon. I mean, the Titans made it, I guess, kind of interesting in the first half, but Detroit covers the big number, 12.5. Brandon, total goes well over. The Lions, this team, they've got to be, they're the favorite to come out of the NFC, these guys.
You know what's crazy is that this score makes it just like look like, oh yeah, Tennessee sucks. The Lions are amazing. The Lions had more return yards than offensive yards this game. They had a 70-yard run by Jahmyr Gibbs and only 155 yards otherwise. They had 262 kick return yards. They had so many short field touchdowns in this game, which you get credit for. Titans entered this game as the worst special teams in the league. I promise you this, they left it as the worst special teams in the league too. This was a special teams win for Detroit, and guess what? That's part of the game too. You're a Super Bowl contender if you can win in all 3 phases of the game, and that's the way they keep doing it.
Carolina, Denver, Sean Payton, he's got a hair across his you-know-what, because that guy's still running trick plays and gadget plays late in the game, and they're up, and they're beating the crap out of Carolina. 28-14 Denver. They covered the big number. Total goes over 40.5. Evan Abrams.
Carolina just wasn't happy about it. I think they were pissed off about him running up the score in post game. Honestly, the story of the game to me is the line. So the look ahead was Denver -2.5. 8 days ago, it goes to 4. It's -10 by the weekend. It's -11 Sunday at noon. It moves 2 points in the final hour. Closes Denver -13. Biggest favorite for Denver since 2017. And then it just, every move was the right move. The 10-point move, or whatever it ends up being, the correct move, because it was 7-0 Carolina, and it felt like Carolina was even just never in the game. Just some crazy numbers on Carolina quickly. 28th consecutive game as an underdog. They haven't been favored since week 15, 2022. And even when they are favored, they've lost 9 consecutive games against the spread. The Bryce Young number, he's lost 11 straight now, first half ATS. Carolina is 1-14 last 15 first half ATS. So when you don't start good and you're up 7-0 and you still can't cover the first half line, it is pretty terrible. From Denver's point of view, I think it's pretty simple. Bo Nix recently has looked better. 13th EPA per play, 15th success rate. Weeks 1 through 4. Now that's since week 5. Weeks 1 through 4, he was 27th and 28th. So I kind of think that's exactly what's behind Denver's success lately, is he's just way more competent. The one Carolina stat just absolutely killed me, and then I'm getting out of here. They've lost now 56 straight games when trailing by 10 plus points at any point. Their last win was in 2018. So they can't start well. They can't come back. It just doesn't matter.
That Denver team, so 2017, their quarterbacks were Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler, and Paxton Lynch. When were they favored by 2 touchdowns?
Siemian against the Giants.
And they lost by 13.
That's where we were in the NFL, where it was Trevor Siemian was the last quarterback to close -13 for Denver. Before that, it was Peyton Manning. I was, if it would have been Peyton Manning, you would have heard me say it, but I didn't really, feel like it was necessary.
They lost by 13. Holy cow. Eli Manning was the quarterback in 2017. Anyway, a little offended, little small-o that the Patriots got buried at the end of this particular episode, because they won. They beat the Jets as 7-point underdogs. Total goes over. Drake May runs in the first touchdown, gets hurt, concussion protocol. Brissett saves the day. They run the ball. Mayo calls him soft. They responded, and they beat the Jets. This is more about the Jets, though. The Jets kind of gave it to them. Brandon.
Yeah, the Jets are why this is the end game here. We had to bury the Jets. The Patriots just had to be unfortunately tied to them in the game here. Greg Zuerlein missed an extra point and a 44-yard field goal in a 3-point loss. So you can do the math on that one.
For the record, I was in Foxborough today. It was a beautiful day. So that Monday night game a few weeks ago with the wind, and it was kind of a weird night. Maybe it was that. No, the Zuerlein's just not.
It's
and
time
Mike
to try out
Francesa.
some new kickers, guys. I think it's about done. The Greg the Leg might be toast.
And it's been a great year for kickers. So
he was
go ahead.
Last year. He was all right last year.
He was. Yeah. He's Greg the Leg for a reason. It was not so today. The whole thing with the Jets, we keep saying all season, is that the defense and the special team, they were supposed to be a quarterback away, and the defense and special teams have not been good enough. So I think it is fitting, as we finally and completely bury the Jets at 2-6, season over, that they lose a game with 4 points on special teams just given away, and that their season effectively ends after the offense drove down for a game-leading touchdown, that they end with the defense giving up a 12-play, 70-yard drive to Jacoby Brissett and Ramondre Stevenson. And on 4th down, they just push the ball through, get into the end zone. That is the first time in 223 games a team had 0 turnovers, gave up under 250 yards, and still lost. The last time that happened was the Fail Mary game back in 2012, featuring Aaron Rodgers losing that game too. And from producer Tito, if you add in one more thing, the last time a team had 0 turnovers, gave up under 250 yards, and scored 20, it's been since 1940 that one of those teams lost a game. They were 756-0 before the Jets managed to lose this one. The numbers say the Jets shouldn't have lost, but they did. That's what they just keep on doing. It's the miracle of the New York Jets. They're 0-3 since firing Bob Saleh. Clearly not the problem. Twice as favorites. Get this whole stupid team out of here.
Okay.
I will say this: aren't the Packers 1-0 with Robert Saleh?
Yeah.
Barely. You know
Barely.
that would have been a story if they gave that game away late with him showing up there.
Okay. We will get to Brandon's hot reads. He's got two momentarily, but we'll do Monday Night Football first. Giants visiting the Steelers, just one game. There's no ESPN Plus exclusive this week. It's Giants at Steelers. Giants are getting 6 right now. The total's at 36.5. I'll throw to Evan first. Evan, any clear side or total that you're eyeing here or touchdown play?
I just like 2 props, and then I'll 3 trends that everyone's going to know walking into this one. I like Singletary unders. I just feel like they're just going to other running backs, and he's kind of being phased out a tiny bit. Under 2.5 receptions. He's had 2 total targets his last 2 games, 11 receptions on 12 targets this year. Just something I feel like is a decent number. And I like Van Jefferson unders, under 2.5 receptions. Also under 12.5 longest reception. So those are the 2 bets. And then the props, the trends I think people would look at here. Dating back to 92, Steelers 21-1 straight up at home in Monday Night Football games. They just do not lose in this spot. I think we've heard that before. They lost to Washington. It's their only loss in 2020. The Giants Jets won 4-32 straight up now at night in primetime games since 2019, even with that Jets win over the Patriots earlier this year. And Daniel Jones 1-15 straight up at night. So those are all the things kind of in the mix here, all pointing towards Pittsburgh. So doesn't mean something, probably not, but it's going to be a direction everyone's going to be kind of looking at.
Brandon, on the Best Bets pod on Friday, you gave out some angles here as it pertains to the part of, geez, I can't even talk, the total, excuse me, because I'm getting so excited to hear the mine shaft once again.
Yeah, definitely on the under here. We've talked about this on the look ahead a week ago. We grabbed this at 37.5. Still like it at 36.5, 36 if you need it. I'll still like it if it drops below there as well. Giants games 39 or below, all but one. Steelers 37 or below 4 times already. Combined 10-3 to the under. Neither team has a lot of chance to score. I don't know how it's going to happen. The Giants have, I think, the worst offensive line in the league now against all that Pittsburgh defensive talent. And then on the other side, you get an injured inside offensive line for the Steelers right now up against Dexter Lawrence. And the one strength that the Giants have with Russell Wilson, who can't deal with inside pressure. So I don't know how this goes well scoring either way. Totals 37 or below since November 2019. You keep hearing me with that stat. 38, 17-1 to the under, 69%. And then the mine shaft. Of those 55 games, 56%, more than half of them finished at 30 points or below. So I take the under 30.5 down the mine shaft plus 215. Almost a quarter of those games with a total this low finished at 23 or below. So if you want to go under 23.5, take the mine shaft all the way down 6-1 on that one. And then a little extra juice here for you. If you like it, I didn't even think about it because I've been so on the under in this game. I think it's a pretty good spot for the Giants. If you like a side here, a lot of trends that support Danny Dimes as a road dog, a lot of trends kind of fading teams that just won big as small underdogs like Pittsburgh. And then last week, Pittsburgh was kind of a rah-rah spot. After rah-rah, after the Steelers win after they cover as an underdog, and then our favorites of 3 or more after that, they're only 41% against the spread. So this is kind of a letdown spot for Pittsburgh historically with Tomlin. You think about it, you're like, oh yeah, I can picture them playing an ugly one. And guess what? If it goes under 30 or under 23, 6 points is a lot to cover. 6 points is a lot more valuable at that point. So I think if you agree with the mine shaft angle on the under, you can like the Giants that way too. So I don't mind if you want to play that or even play them together that way.
Evan, you seem outraged about something. You wanted to say something.
I just feel like everyone needs to throw down at least $5 on some sort of special teams defensive touchdown in this game. Because with both these quarterbacks, I'm at least going to put a $5 ticket on both defenses to score on a parlay or something like that.
Yeah.
Because with Jones and Wilson, I just feel like especially both defenses are just really talented. And Giants have a lot of sacks. Something weird's going to happen.
And I can't believe
how about if you could get it. I don't think I'll see a book posted, but over under half a passing attempt for Drew Lock. I'd take that over if you got a chance at it. That's Daniel Jones backup.
You know, even that Cincinnati game that they played a few Sunday nights ago, primetime standalone game, they looked okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't get how that line kept staying under 3 and why, like, even the money line price dropped. Like, I know Cincinnati hasn't been a great outfit, but that was without Neighbors. I don't know. Like Dayball, this is also kind of for his sanity, right? And his positioning. But it
Also a
feels
very different defense with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Like they should have a little bit of trouble
that's
in
fair.
this one that they didn't have before. And they were only able to put up like what? I
7.
can't remember. Not many
17-7.
points.
It's the
Yeah.
final. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. There's your Monday night angles. And now for Brandon Anderson's hot reads. He's got 2 for week 9. So again, the hot read here, you're trying to find value right now as it pertains to it's a numbers play. You like numbers. That's why we're getting this now before there's movement throughout the week. What do you got?
Yeah, first pick. We're leading, Brendan. Leading, not burying, leading with your Patriots. Under on the Patriots. Patriots at Titans, under 39. Quarterback play here. Drake May, you mentioned, in concussion protocol. Typically, that makes you less likely to play a week from now. Certainly with the franchise, I have to believe they're going to be very cautious. So I think we get more likely Jacoby Brissett. On Tennessee's side, we don't know if Will Levis is ready yet, so I think more likely Mason Rudolph. In both cases, I think that makes each team more predictable, more vanilla offense, less explosive offense, and less mistake prone. Everything better for unders here. I don't want Will Levis or Drake May chucking the ball to the other team out there. That gives short fields and easy points. Just give me Brissett and Rudolph boring me to death and hitting an under here. When Brissett starts, Patriots games have averaged under 33 points a game. Not them, the whole game. When May starts, they're averaging over 52 points a game. So that's nearly a 20-point swing. They've just clearly been much more explosive that way. Titans defense been pretty good this year, honestly. I know they just gave up 52 to Detroit, but we talked about that. That was a special teams thing. A lot more than the defense. The defense did mostly fine. They just played inside the red zone the entire game. Titans have now played Lions, Bills, Packers, elite offenses. They average almost 39 points a game allowed. Only 20 points a game allowed in every other opponent there. So offenses, Patriots 15.5 points a game, Titans 17 or less, all but one. I like the under 39 here. It's already dropping 38, 37.5 at some books. 37 is that last key number down. Get that 39 if you can, or just the best thing above a 37.
Okay. Very good. I don't have much to, I mean, it is kind of funny that Brissett had the game-winning drive. If he did that against Miami, we don't see Drake May. But so the Patriots have that at least to ride with. Then again, and also to help you, what was very annoying, that at the end of the first half, they had a minute left, and Mayo is not even going for points. He's just like they didn't punt the ball, but they're punting on scoring any points, went into the half. That's how incompetent the offense still is. As much as it was cool to see them beat the Jets today. Hot read number 2.
Number 2, this one's going to be, Evan, you're going to like this one. I'm taking the Chargers under. Chargers at the Browns, under 41. These are ugly, but that's all right. It's not pretty winning money sometimes. Chargers just keep playing like 1950s football. I don't need to watch it. I'll just cash it under. This line jumped from 39 this morning to 41. Why? Well, I guess Browns. I guess because we watched the Browns put up some points on the Ravens. We talked about it. There's certainly more juice in the offense with Jameis, but I think to be fair, Jameis should have been picked a couple times in that game too, had some dropped interceptions. I think that's going to even out over time. These are still defense teams all day, every day. Cleveland's defense plays a little better now that the offense is not quite so terrible. And the Chargers haven't had a game at 40 points all season. The Chargers are 7-0 to this number on the under. Chargers defense allowing 13 points a game. Browns defense allowed 21 or less all but 2 games. Some of the underlying numbers hasn't been pretty there, but it's quietly been a little better lately. We know how good their defense was a year ago. Teams are combined 11-5 to the under. Games that are in 39 to 45 range on a total that dropped from the look-ahead line. This was a 42 on the season look-ahead, 55% to the under. Jim Harbaugh totals below 44 are 59% to the under. That's kind of that Jim Harbaugh Big Ten thing that we talked about. And again, this line's going up. So I almost hesitated here thinking like, is it really going to rise a little more? Could we get a little better value? 40 and 41 are key numbers though. That's a really key range, 40 to 44. And we went up into that range. They gave us a couple key numbers here. So I'm going to take the under 41. Chargers just going to keep going under that. I don't want to watch it. I'm just happy to make some money off of it if they're going to keep playing whatever sort of football that they're doing. So that's the last one for today.
Something tells me we're going to be here again next week, and the Chargers are hosting the Tennessee Titans, and we could be hearing the same thing again.
The hot read. 2 weeks ahead. I like it. The hot read look ahead. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, my hot read. I got CLV, by the way, on the Cardinals and the Dolphins, but that didn't go well because, the Dolphins actually look like an outfit that was respectable offensively, and the Cardinals scored points. So 0-1. I'm done with that. And I'll leave it to you two. Brandon Anderson, find his work, of course, in the app. Follow him there for any futures that he may add. Also, the picks, the hot reads, and best bets coming your way on Friday morning every week during the NFL season. Evan Abrams, our director of research and media. You can also find his work in the app, actionnetwork.com, for write-ups, primers, all that good stuff when it comes to the research, the news and notes. That's it. We're done. Thanks for watching live on YouTube today. Before you leave, again, please, if you don't mind, hit like on the video, subscribe to our channel when you hit that little bell when we go live for stuff like this, the favorites, all those other guys, Sunday Six Pack, whatever it may be. You'll get the notification. So please subscribe to our channel, like the video before you head out. And those of you listening, 5-star ratings and reviews, much appreciated on the Action Network podcast, wherever you get your podcast. For Brandon Anderson, Evan Abrams, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for tuning in to NFL Week 8, our Sunday night recap episode here on the Action Network podcast.